This is Zach with MyCodeTeacher.com, and this is going to be our first lesson in the iPad application Custom Sounds of Nature that we're modeling. It's basically a sound mixer, and so let's go ahead and get started and dig right in. If you go to File, New, Project, my window will pop over here, and I'll occasionally reference my second monitor, which you can't see, for notes and code references as we go along. So the first thing we need to select is a master detail application, and this is going to be called Sound Mixer. And make sure under device family you have selected iPad, and I usually save mine to the desktop. So let's go ahead and run this right away so we can see exactly what we're starting with and how far we have to go. Now, if you didn't see the application already, you should go back to the first video and take a look, because I demo it and you can see exactly what we're aiming to build. So the logic behind the master detail application is you've got a table view, whether it be in the vertical or horizontal position. So here it would be showing vertically, and here it would be in the horizontal position. It splits the screen and the table views on the left. And the logic is if you select something from the master list, it's going to show additional information in the detail list. So I kind of use this setup to help build the structure for Custom Sounds of Nature, so that you can select as many icons or sounds as you wanted to, and they would appear in the detail view, and then you'd be able to drag and move them around for the sound mixer. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to be able to configure our table view on the left side. And so in order to do that, the way that I had it structured is I set up two classes. One was for a section and another class was for sound detail. And the reason I did this is I loaded an array of these classes and then displayed them in the table view. And so the reason I did that was so if we needed to use another method of importing our sounds in the near future, say this application became really popular and we wanted to constantly be uploading sounds, this is a good setup so that we could later use XML to import the sounds with our classes that we set up. For this application, we're just going to be hand coding the sound names, descriptions, icons into the table view. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we need to do is we need to go into our storyboard and we need to get rid of this cell. Now this is going to make our application crash if we were to run it after getting rid of this cell. But that's not a problem for right now, because in code we're going to fix that. So just go ahead and click on detail right here. They have a pre-made cell, and just hit delete and Control S to save. And that's all we need to do in the storyboard for now. Now again, if you run your application, it's going to crash and it's going to say, oh, your table view stepped out of bounds, and you've got an error. That's no big deal for right now. So let's go ahead and go to our masterview.m, and first off, this is the project navigator. So if you can't get there, you go to View Navigators, Project Navigator, or Command 1, and everything else like your file inspector can be shown from the utilities. And so that's just a quick reference in case you're just switching from one of the older Xcode versions. Now, the master view controller, if we look in the .h, is a UI table view controller, which means it has a table view in it. And so we need to look at UI table view delegate methods to be able to tell the table view how it's supposed to act, or how it's supposed to appear. And so by default, Apple includes some methods here. For example, can edit row at index path, commit editing style, move row at index path, can move row at index path, but we don't need any of these. What we really need, or at least we don't need any of them right now. what we really need is to go to the documentation, and I'm going to show you my logic and process of looking at the documentation so that you can learn exactly how to use documentation as you're building your applications. But we'll go to the search here and we'll type in UI table view delegate, and you'll see that it pops up right here. And the reason I did a UI table view delegate is because if you have a class that has events or actions or things that occur upon itself, it's usually going to have a delegate. So for example, if it's I can't really think of something on the spot here on the top of my head, but a UI table view is a class, and it does have actions or events against itself. So you can type in, rather than just UI table view, to get the properties for the UI table view and everything about that UI table view, you can type in UI table view delegate, and then you get the actions that need to be called against itself to make changes under different circumstances. So here we can see, okay, when a cell is called, what is the height for that specific row? What's going to happen if you're going to select a row, or if you did select a row? And so there's all kinds of different options here that you can choose from. So as a quick reference, I'm going to take a look at my master view controller code over here on the monitor that you can't see, and we're going to take a look at exactly what we need. And so the first thing that we're going to need is table view did select row at index path. Okay, and that's obviously because, and that's the second one down here, and that's because when we select a row, we need to perform an action. We need it to do something. So when we select a row, it's going to call this method right here. So if you click on this method, you'll get the entire delegate method right up here. So if you just select the whole thing and copy it, and we'll bring it down here into our .m and paste, we now have that in there. Now we're probably going to get some warnings as we go along with this because we don't have return types in the methods, but we'll get to that point, so don't worry as you're going along or think you're doing something wrong. Okay, so back to the documentation. The next thing that we need is a cell for row at index path. So let's type in cell for, and here it appears right here. So table view cell for row at index path, and we can see a whole method right here that we can use. UI table view cell. So let's go ahead and paste that right in there. Okay, and there's one of our warnings, which we'll go ahead and fix later here. And so that's going to modify what the cell is going to look like. So we definitely really need that one. We're going to need number of rows in section, and then title for header in section. So back to the documentation here. Control find title for header, and here that is right there. Title for header in section. Come back to the code. We'll paste that here. Okay. And then we need number of sections. And this probably won't be, yeah, here it is. Number of sections, too hard to find is what I was going to say. Okay. Okay, and that is all we need. We still need to get number of rows in section, so let's go ahead and find that if that's even here. Number of rows in section, here we go. Okay. And so I believe that is everything. Okay, so let's get some basic default values in here and see if we can get this this application to compile. So I actually did select row and index path. Since it's void, we really don't need to return anything right now. We'll get to that later if we want to. Now with the number of rows in section, which is right down here, let's just go ahead and return, we'll go ahead and return 10. Just because. Now the number of sections in table view, we'll go ahead and return 1 because there's only going to be one section right now. We're just putting hard values in here right now. Title for header and section, we're going to return a string. and we'll say test. Okay. And cell for row at index path. This is exactly what the cell is going to what it's going to look like. And so we need to return a UI table view cell. And so the best way to do that, and this is one of the most common problems that a lot of people have in working with the table view, we need to make a cell, and then we need to make it reusable so that you're not constantly allocating new cells as you're scrolling through your table view or refreshing data. You're reusing an existing cell's memory so that you're not lagging your application basically. And so we need to make a static string, and this needs to identify your cell. And so we're going to say that this is just cell. So now we're going to make a UI table view cell, UI table view cell, and we're going to call it cell. And we're going to say table view. There's a nice little method here that does this for us. DQ reusable cell with identifier. And then we're going to call our cell identifier. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to say if cell is nil, then cell equals, we're going to allocate a new instance of UI table view cell. So if it hasn't been allocated to memory yet, then we need to make a new one. We're going to initialize it with the style UI table view cell style default, and we're going to reuse with an identifier cell identifier. Okay, and that should be the end of our conditional statement. Make sure you have an uppercase T here in UI table view cell. And so now we're going to say cell dot text label dot text equals hello, and we're going to return our cell. So that's the most complicated of them all, and that's really it. So we should have 10 rows. If we go back into the storyboard here, and I'll bring my storyboard over here. Okay, we see that this says static content right here. We need to come up here and we need to change this to dynamic prototypes. And it's going to make a cell here for you, and we don't really need that, so we can delete that. Now save, and we should be ready to compile here. And I'll make this a little larger for you, and there it is. So we've got our category section title, which is test, and then we've got our 10 rows. Okay, so we are making progress. Okay, so in the next tutorial, we are going to set up our own classes that are going to categorize everything for us, and we are going to build off of that one in a third tutorial and customize the cell style. So this is Zach from mycodeteacher.com, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.